Meanwhile, in Russia, October 2023. Welcome to Crazy Russian News Friday update. Today we have the news that I find particularly interesting and worth sharing. Please check them out. And this week we have not one but two star newsmakers. No, I should rephrase it. We have one newsmaker, Russian RUBLE. It's been making waves this week, big ones. And we have one star fairy tale teller, Vladimir Putin. He told us quite a few fairy tales this week. And I'll let you know about that at the end of the stream, of course. And yes, I'll sing a little bit again, and it's going to be absolutely horrible. But I'm kind of getting the kick out of it. Howdy, howdy, friends. My name is Konstantin, and welcome to Inside Russia, where usual Russia is explained by the unusual Russian, me. And this is early October, and this past week has been rich for the crazy news. And, let me fill you in. The first crazy Russian news of the week comes from, no, not from Russia. It comes from Marbella, Spain. Have you ever heard of Marbella? That's really a piece of heaven on earth. Vacation town in the south of Spain, world-famous place, a gem of Spanish sea coast, the place where the rich people live. It all applies to Marbella. But there's also one description that is missing usually, and I'm going to give it to you right now. It's the home of poor Russian senators. Yes, you heard me right. Last week, a news came out that a Russian senator named Alexei Chepa owns a house in a NATO country that's a part of the collective West in the enemy territory controlled by the evil satanic Americans in the town of Marbella. Strange. Alexei Chepa is a model Russian senator. There are some questions about his past. For example, his alleged former business partner was sentenced by a French court to 6 years in prison for illegal arms shipments to the African country Angola. Or in 2020, Chepa publicly stated that Russia does not recognize responsibility for the execution of Polish citizens in Katyn, despite the fact that in 2010, Russia officially recognized it. So this kind of guy. But all was forgotten and forgiven when he started supporting the invasion of Russia into Ukraine. And now he's a model Russian senator. He's currently under the international personal sanctions for violating territorial integrity and independence of Ukraine from the following countries, the sanctions from the following countries. All European Union countries, also Switzerland, Great Britain, New Zealand, Australia, Japan, Canada, and the USA. Told you, a model Russian senator. And, all of a sudden, a house in Marbella. What the heck? You see, Russian senators, they cannot be rich. They cannot own businesses. They can't make money. Their sole purpose is to serve and represent Russian people. The house that Chepa owns, well, he technically doesn't own it, a little bit later than that. The house is small and modest, not much to brag about at all. It's located on a plot of 10,725 square meters. No, the area of this modest home is 1,122 square meters, or about 13,000 square feet. It has 180 square meter guest house and other buildings nearby, and estimated price is 15 million years, or around 16.5 million US dollars. Alexei Chepa's family is living in this house right now, in Spain, in the NATO country. Very strange, you know? Then I learned that Chepa doesn't own the house. The house was bought by Alexei Chepa's son, Daniil, in 2019, when Daniil was just 22 years old. Daniil must be good with money, a financial wizard or something, you know, to buy a house for $16.5 million where his dad lives at 22. Wow. This is Russia for you, full of young and super rich financial wizards. I just have one question for Spanish people and the Spanish authorities, the government. Do you like that the family like that lives in Spain? Do you like that? The European Union personal sanctions are really strong and worth a lot, you know, right? Well, we should end here. House in Spain belonging to a Russian crook, what's the big deal? I mean, it's happened before, it'll happen again. No, we just can't leave Marbella. Oh, I like the name. Let's talk more about it. Because another top Russian politician, Lyudmila Narusova, spent summertime in Marbella. The long-term senator, the member of the upper chamber of Russian parliament, and the rumors have it, her daughter's godfather is none other than Vladimir Putin himself. Like the real godfather who christened her in church, not mafia-type godfather, you know, like the real godfather. But that's all just rumors. What's not rumors is that Narusova spent summertime in Marbella. How do I know? It was in the Russian news. Upon returning from Spain to the Russian parliament, she received a warning from the speaker of the parliament, the upper chamber. And then I start putting the dots together. Russian senators buying property in Marbella and flocking there for the summer breaks, for the holidays. I think there's something they're not telling us. Perhaps something going on in Marbella. Perhaps there's a Russian senator colony in Marbella. Perhaps they live there. You know, like really live. And they just fly to Russia to attend work, commute back and forth, long-distance commute, so to speak. Come to Moscow from their homes in Marbella, vote to attack Ukraine, then fly back to Spain and live there happily after. Let's move on. This news is fairly small, but important. According to Russia's largest job-seeking website, Headhunter, there's a tremendous shortage of qualified psychologists in Russia. Well, it's not the news, at least for us here outside Russia, in exile. Every morning I go to have breakfast in Tashkent Breakfast Club. Anywhere from 7 to 20 people show up. And there's at least one psychologist among us, always, because there are just so many that have left. Thousands and thousands of psychologists have left Russia, fled, ran away. But in Russia, they need the psychologists more than ever now. All those damaged coming back from the war, all families who have lost people in the war, all those depressed who simply don't like what's going on in Russia, those who aren't coping well with the situation, the demand for the psychologists is up. And, you know, it's true and it's very clear. It's a fact, you know, Russian largest job-seeking website, it's like monster.com, you know, in the United States. Headhunter, that's the place if you want to find a job or an employer or a worker, that's the place to go because everyone is at Headhunter. So they prove that the demand for psychologists is up. And if there's a demand, then supply follows, right? That's business. Many new so-called universities or schools have started offering to teach profession of psychologist. You know, like the deal, the whole, the turnkey thing. Like you go to school, you get the diploma and everything, like the real deal. But there's got to be a catch. There's always a catch in Russia, and also there's a catch here in those new schools. I looked at the curriculum, I looked at the offers. They offer people to help master the profession of a psychologist in just 1 year. 1 year? A university degree in 1 year? Well, understood, they need the professionals fast, but 1 year? Good luck to those who will be helped by those new in 1 year psychologists. I have an idea for Russian government, It's not a secret that they have shortages of all professions now. Why don't they create more universities like that, the fast-track universities? I just have few suggestions. An airflop university. Join us and become a licensed commercial airline pilot in under 6 weeks. Guaranteed. Let's Mickey Mouse engineering courses. Duct tape included. Oops, I did it again medical school. Creating the best heart surgeons since February 24th, 2022. And us? We're just moving on. Oh, remember I told you that I always look for small news and analyze them? I take small news, small bits of information, small pieces here and there, and put them together like pieces of puzzle. Once together, sometimes they give big pictures. And the following news is small, but I find it extremely, extremely important. In Shatoy district of Chechnya, a monument to the Marines of the Northern Fleet who were killed in the battle with the Chechnyan separatists on December 31st, 1999, was smashed into pieces for the first time since it was installed. Why this is important? In the 90s, Chechnya wanted to secede from Russian Federation, and it failed. Folks, let's watch closely what will be happening in Chechnya in near future. And we are moving on. In Tver province, there's a memorial to the victims of war and the Red Terror, and it's called Mednaya. The Red Terror is the extermination of millions of Soviet citizens ordered by Joseph Stalin in the 30s of the last century. Polish prisoners of war and repressed citizens of the Soviet Union were murdered and buried in that place where Mednaya Memorial is right now. There are thousands of such memorials all over Russia, and this particular memorial in Tver province has just become famous because a monument of Joseph Stalin was installed on the territory of that memorial. I was thinking for some time how to comment this news. I can't. I simply don't know what to say. It's the same thing if they would install a monument to Adolf Hitler on the territory of Auschwitz concentration camp, where there's a museum now. In the previous news, I told you that there's a shortage of psychologists in Russia. It's not the psychologists they need, but psychiatrists. And we're moving on. The ruble to dollar exchange rate increased. Oh, I'm going to give you this news, the very last. It's just Russian ruble has been making splashes again. Let's jump on to another news. Black caviar. Have you tried black caviar? I have a couple times in my life. Such a treat, and it's very expensive in Russia. Certainly not for Russian people, not Russian people's food. The only Russians who can afford Russian caviar are the senators who live in Marbella, Spain, and commute to Russian parliament to work. And they probably will be upset soon because the price of Russian caviar, black caviar, is expected to rise. According to Andrei Markin, the head of the Union of Fishing and Fish-Producing Enterprises of Caspy, that's where most of sturgeon is caught, or the black caviar is produced. The increase, according to this fellow, and he knows what he's talking about, the increase of the cost of already expensive delicacy is going to happen soon and is associated with an increase in the cost of fish food due to devaluing Russian ruble. Hello, $100 rubles per dollar. Now, wait a second. It doesn't make any sense. Let's think about that. What does fish food have to do with the exchange rate of Russian ruble to American dollar? Fish food, it's such a low-tech stuff. I mean, it can be made anywhere. For sure, it's made in Russia by Russians. You know, it does not depend much from the dollar. How much dollar costs, how many rubles dollar costs. Wrong! As it turns out, and I was shocked, 95% of fish food is made overseas in foreign lands and imported to Russia. Fish food, for goodness sake. As it turns out, Russians can't even make fish food. I guess all the efforts and resources are spent on making monuments to Joseph Stalin. You know, I have a feeling that crazy Russian news are becoming new normal news. Just one little suggestion, you know, freaking stop making monuments to Stalin. Just please, make fish food. Moving on. Funny news came from an international company, Unilever. Funny, amusing, I don't know, interesting. Call it whatever. Unilever, I remind you, is still present in Russia. Hey, nothing personal, just business. Unilever has submitted application to Rospatent, Russian copyright agency, to rename some brands into Russian language. Soap used to be called Dove. You know, Dove. We've been using it for 30 years, and it's in English, it's Dove. Now, it's going to be called Dove in Russian. Shampoo used to be called Timotei. And now it's going to be called Timotei. And another soap or shampoo was called Clear. Now it's going to be called Clear. I wonder if Unilever is doing the same in Ukraine right now, renaming its products into Russian language. It'd be interesting to know. And we are moving on. The deposits of Russian citizens in the accounts of foreign banks, they are outside of Russia, those foreign banks, you know, for the first time exceeded 7 trillion rubles. It's almost twice as much as Russian citizens keep deposited in commercial banks inside Russia. This news actually gives me hope. There are some smart Russians with common sense that are left. This news can also be interpreted as a message. Run away and take your money with you. That's what many people have done. Folks, by the way, if you like in today's news update, please help me out to spread this message by making reposts in your social media accounts. Thank you so much. That helps, actually. Also can press the like button. And we are moving on. And a quick weekly update on how the inflation is doing in Russia. Well, folks, inflation in Russia is doing well. It's blossoming. According to the economic data, in September, inflation in Russia amounted to 0.73% month-to-month increase, which is 3 times higher than the average rate, 0.2%. Over the past 10 years, for the month of September, that's what I just compared, inflation is rising now in a week as much as it used to rise in a month in the previous years. 4.5 times faster than in the previous month. But no worries, because everything is going according to the Putin's plan, and we are moving on. The Russian parliament has made news recently. Again, hey, it always does. A Senator, Yana Lantratova, proposed to take 2% of income of every single person who gets paid by the government and send that 2% to the needs of the war. In other words, the war tax has been introduced to the Russian parliament. In this live stream yesterday, I told you that over 70% of Russian people get paid by Russian government in one way or another. So 2% of that amounts to quite a hefty amount. Remember, I said many times before that new taxes will be introduced in Russia soon? Well, this is just the beginning. And we are moving on. According to Ministry of Transportation, in some regions of Russian Federation, taxi rides prices have increased in price by 44%. And that's just in the month of September. Something's telling me that the increase in taxi prices will not stop. The increases in taxi prices, And the Russian Ministry of Transportation agrees with me for once this time. They also think that the increases will continue. Whew. I actually have a little song about that. But don't worry, my fellow Russian friends, everything is going according to the plan. Taxi is more expensive, but it's good for you. You will just walk more, and it's healthy for you. You also save some money on taxi rides, and you will get rich. Yeah. Let's move on away from this shame. Another news is, well, if it's not crazy, I don't know what crazy is. Margarita Simonyan. Some of you might have heard the name. She's number 2 propagandist in Russia. She runs a Telegram channel. She's a head of Russia Today TV channel and a news agency, and she's a big deal. She shakes hands with Putin. So a couple days ago, Margarita Simonyan proposed to blow a nuclear bomb over Siberia in the very heart of Russia. She said that there's nothing terrible in nuclear explosion over Siberia. According to the propagandist, there will be no nuclear winter if an explosion is made hundreds of kilometers away where no people live. Why she said that? And she said that this stuff is too crazy to make up. Okay, she said that, and it's still on video, and you have probably heard that because it's made waves. It's made the news all over the world. Okay, why she said that? I have no clue. I have the video of that. Okay, still, and I'm gonna keep it forever. It's one of the craziest news, and I'm kind of used to them now, but still, news like that comes out and you think, this is crazy. Am I sleeping and it's a terrible nightmare? I want to wake up. Well, what's even crazier is that the next day, she started denying that she proposed to nuke Siberia. That's in video. That's like all over the world. People are angry. The Siberians started getting really angry because, they don't like the nukes over Siberia. Russia has definitely become a much safer place now, especially for the Siberians. Before, they could only be scared of the evil West, the satanic Americans, perhaps, the NATO. Now they're double scared of the evil West and own armed forces, who they support with their own taxes, with their own rubles that they pay in taxes, Now they don't even know where a nuke would come from the satanic evil West or from Russian army. They don't know where to run. Whew. I might know why Simonyan said that. Perhaps it's a smart message. And the message might be this. Look what we can do to ourselves and imagine what we can do to you. We'll cut off our own hand. We'll cut off 2 of your hands. Whew. Looks like hell is empty now. All the demons have come to Russian television. Oh. Hey, if at this point you're asking yourself, how can I help out this channel? That's easy. The best way is to hit the like button, to buy me a coffee at the buymeacoffee.com or become a channel's patron on patreon.com. Either way would be fantastic and much appreciated. Thank you so much. I'm going to put the links down below. Thank you. Let's move on. The star newsmaker today is Russian ruble. This is Friday, late at night in Russia, and ruble closed at 100.21 rubles for 1 American dollar. It hit 100 rubles per dollar mark again. I remind you, there was a sharp landslide of Russian ruble, devaluation of Russian ruble, late July and early August, and that kind of put panic into Russian government and Russian central bank to kind of keep control of devaluation of ruble. They increased the key interest rate from 7 to 13%, 7.5% to 13%. Okay, that's crazy. Vladimir Putin acknowledged that that's a concern, and it means that in the next couple of days there will be another increase of the key interest rate. My forecast by either 1.5% or 2%. But the thing is, they might keep ruble afloat for some time. But every time they raise the key interest rate, that's not good for the economy. The consequences will be pretty dire. To summarize, it's bad, very bad. Whatever remaining businesses, independent businesses there are in Russia, the private sector, they're killing it, finishing it off. But perhaps it's part of the plan, because they don't need independent businesses. Hey, they want government to own and control everything. They want government to pay all the Russians their salary. Therefore, they can control Russian people. If you don't behave, you simply don't get paid. Easy as that, We don't have to force you to do anything. We just won't pay you. We'll fire you, Blacklist. So perhaps it's part of the plan, that I don't know. But, I'll be keeping my popcorn nearby, and I'll be watching closely what's going to be happening. I made a deal with Bloomberg and Russian agency RIA Novosti that Russian ruble will be trading at least at 107 by the end of the year. And looks like it's going to be trading at 107 way before this year ends. So let's move on. Finally, the star newsmaker, Russian President Vladimir Putin. Well, this week he hasn't been the star newsmaker. He's actually been the star storyteller. Fairy tale teller. Putin has been very active this past week. He participated in a conference called Valdai discussion forum. That an event that happens in Valdai in Russia every single year. He made quite a few news. He actually told stories, fairy tales. I can't even say they're stories, but they're definitely fairy tales. There have been quite a few of them. I'll just give you a short summary so you understand where Putin was getting at. Just like a very, very rough narratives, messages, so to speak. We were deceived by the West. Anglo-Saxons are evil Satanists, are puppeting Ukraine. Parent number one, parent number two is everywhere in the world, but never in Russia. Odessa, Ukraine is a Russian city and a little bit Jewish, but just a little bit. Lenin invented Ukraine. We were deceived by the West. Russian world successfully expanding. The sanctions are good for us. Russian economy is going strong. We were deceived by the evil West. American dollar is shrinking. Thousands of Leopard tanks, German tanks, have been destroyed by the Russian army. Incomes of Russian people are growing. Traditional values are the foundation of Russia. We were deceived by the West. Oh, did I say that already? Oh, I said that twice. That's just the messages, just short summaries. His speeches deserve a separate stream, and I'll do that on Sunday. Please tune in, day after tomorrow. I will be kind of picking his speeches apart and talking about them. I'll just give you right now one very unusual fairy tale, very strange one that he told us. Well, hang on. Where do I start? Putin told us that Prigozhin's plane was blown up from the inside by a grenade. Now, it's not really Putin's role to tell us about air catastrophes, and it's definitely not his place to tell us of what happened to Prigozhin's plane. There's an investigation going on, and it's done by very strange, but the body of Russian government that usually investigates air crashes, called MAK, international committee or something like that. It's not investigating, but its investigation is being done by Russian investigative committee, the criminal investigation. Now, those folks don't know much about planes, okay? But they're investigating, and it's their place to have an official press secretary or an official representative come out and say how the investigation goes. But not Putin's place, not the president of Russia. That's not why I'm paying him his salary, okay? He's not why Russians are paying his salary. That's for different reasons. But anyway, he told us today that Prigozhin's plane was blown up from the inside by a grenade. What? Vladimir Putin said that the fragments of grenades were found in the bodies of the founder of Private Army Wagner, Yevgeny Prigozhin, and other people who died in that plane crash. Not too far from Moscow, just 30 miles from one of Putin's houses. It's a pure accident, of course, According to Putin, there was no external impact on the planes. He said that, but he did not give us any facts. He probably thinks that we actually believe his words, That could be. The question is probably hanging in the air. What happened to the leadership of the private army, Wagner? The head of the investigative committee reported to me the other day that the fragments of hand grenades were found in the bodies of those killed in the plane crash. There was no external impact on the aircraft. This is already an established fact. The results of the extermination examination. Excuse me. Slip of the tongue. A Freudian slip of the tongue. The results of examination conducted by the Russian Investigative Committee, and, it's the facts. The president noted that the investigation into the crash of Prigozhin's private plane has not yet been completed. According to him, the examination of the presence of alcohol or narcotics, drug substances, in the blood of the victims hasn't been done, but Putin believes it should be carried out. We know that after the well-known events in the company in the country, in St. Petersburg, well, Vladimir, please call everything their own names. Not the events, but the mutiny, successful mutiny, okay? Forgive me, I continue quoting that. FSB found not only 10 billion of rubles in cash, but also 5 kilograms of cocaine. In my opinion, it was necessary to conduct such an examination, but it was not conducted, Putin added. Now, what I just told you is pretty amazing. I quoted Vladimir Putin, okay? And he just told us that there was a raid in ЧВК Wagner, private army Wagner office, that belonged to Evgeny Prigozhin, during the time of the event. And it's a known fact. We all remember that. We all remember that they found and seized 10 billion rubles in cash. And in the news, it was reported that it was 1 kilo of cocaine. But now Putin says 5 kilos. Well, Putin knows better. I'm pretty sure it was 5 kilos of cocaine. But then the thing is, 10 billion rubles in cash were given back to Prigozhin after he turned back. And he stopped moving, from Moscow and started going to Belarus. Wait a second. Did Putin just suggest that 5 kilograms of cocaine that were seized also were given back to Prigozhin? I mean, is it me? I made a mistake, or that's what he suggested? Why would he suggest to conduct a drug test on the bodies? Okay, so he suggested that those folks got drunk and snorted cocaine or something, and they started playing with the grenades and they blew themselves up inside of the plane. That's what he suggests. Ooh, boy, I don't know what to tell you. What kind of news is that? Crazy? You let me know in the comments, because I'm lost. Speaking about Wagner's private military company, the president said that there are no private military companies in Russia because there's no law on private military companies. He said it was the reporters who gave it the name, the private military company Wagner. Well, as far as I know, as far as I've heard, as far as I've read, and I heard many politicians, and I don't recall Vladimir Putin saying that, but I definitely do recall top Russian politicians. They called it ЧВК Wagner. ЧВК Wagner, ЧВК stands for Частная военная компания, private war company. Okay, now Putin tells us otherwise. Okay. I continue quoting. He said that the experience of ЧВК Wagner, having ЧВК Wagner, was so clumsy because it was not based on the law. And that's another phrase, another statement Putin made that really puzzles me and disturbs me, and it really hurts, because what? You created ЧВК Wagner in 2012. You praised them so many times. You gave credit to ЧВК Wagner. You gave them highest honors in Russia, the medals of the hero of Russia, And now you're telling us that this experience was so clumsy because it was not based on the law. So you're telling us that you were doing something that was illegal, praising an illegal private company that was not based on the law? What the hell, people? Help me out here. What is going on in Russia? This is not crazy news. This is like psychedelic or something. Well, it was clumsy indeed, Vlad. And the whole thing that you have created with the country is so freaking clumsy that it's a tragedy. Folks, this is it for the crazy news update for today. There will be no private chat because this is a Friday news updates. I invite everyone who is subscribed to the sponsorship program or a patron on patreon.com to join me tomorrow at the private live stream for patrons and sponsors only, where fewer people, slower paced streams, and we discuss personal things. I give my personal updates on my life and what's going on behind the curtains of Inside Russia. So please, if you haven't subscribed, you can do that. And everyone else, I'll meet you on Sunday. And I'm going to be talking more about what Vladimir Putin has informed us during the Valdai Forum. That's going to be interesting. So thank you so much. It's been a pleasure and an honor to have you here. Carthago delenda est.